think I got my video going. Okay, I'm going to hang up my phone now, guys. Bear with me. Yeah, you're in now, Jeff, so we should be good to go. Okay. How you doing, Fabian?
Not too bad, yourself?
Not too bad. I suspect, yeah, from the looks of it, I'm a little dark.
Yeah.
I'm right here.
That's there.
How's things up there? Now I can see. So can you hear me okay there, Fabian?
Yep, now I can.
Okay, good. I can only get so close before I bang my head on the scope. Well, so far we got a nice night. It's going to be a little boring, I think, once things get going, because I'm shooting M27 tonight, and I'm just going to leave it on. Shooting M27. I want to record, if all goes well, get about 3 hours worth of data. And there's a filter tucked in here. And bear with me a second. I've just got to convince it it's got to shoot longer. Oh, there we go.
So what filter will you be using tonight?
Well, I'm using an L enhance, and
Okay.
I really don't need it here at the cottage. The skies are reasonably dark.
I want to say there's no moon tonight either, isn't it?
Nope, there's no moon tonight. The catch is I'm trying to get a little bit of narrowband detail.
Okay.
At least so far, I'm not particularly impressed with the filter. I'm not getting much more detail than I can get with just proper processing, even from the city. So I'm sort of hoping tonight will be a little better. That when I say I'm not getting more detail, I haven't had a good night to try it on. It's been, the moon has been up, and then the weather's been crappy, so I'm sort of hoping tonight will be a decent night to try it.
Yeah. It cleared up pretty well last night, after midnight, around midnight.
Yeah, unfortunately the clouds didn't part here. We stayed pretty cloudy the whole time.
So where exactly are you?
I am in Marion Bridge.
Where's that at? Like,
it's out toward Louisburg.
okay.
We're on the Myra River. I'll give people a short little video here in a bit once we get some more people logged on, just to sort of give them an idea of the setting where I am, and then we'll go from there.
Cool.
We got one star right. I was actually able to align the telescope, so things seem to be behaving.
I just have to wake mine up.
No, I'm all set to go. One thing that's nice here at the cottage, I never have to take the scope down. I basically just cover it over with a tarp. So, alignment has come out, click on one star, and I'm done.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right, though?
What's that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Jeff.
All right, cool.
Excuse the occasional swatting here. I am outside at the moment, and there are mosquitoes.
Swat away, because I can't see anyway. Do a little mosquito dance.
One sec.
Oh, shit. Just a second.
There. At least until... There we are. I'm not going to do that when the scope is up, but what I might do a little later is pop in the cottage and attempt to log in from there, and then I can remote desktop into my tablet here. But I was sort of thinking I'd stay out as long as the mosquitoes let me, and actually maybe look around the sky, heaven forbid. Binoculars are in my pocket.
Hey, Fabian, I got a new thermocell, propane one.
Oh, yeah, you did, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's nice.
Explosives in the observatory. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I know. It's on the outside, if that means anything.
What's that?
I put it on the outside.
Famous last words. If we hear a loud noise and Jeff sort of goes offline for a while, we'll know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've got my screen brightness turned up all the way here. at least for now. I'll turn it down a bit. Oops, wrong button. There we go. So Jeff, have you got CPWI up and running these days, or do you have to get your other hand controller up and running first?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you to maybe have a look at that hand controller because I think I broke the USB connector off on the inside, and I'm hoping that it didn't actually do any damage to any circuit boards.
Well, we can dig into it when I get back. I'm headed home Sunday.
Okay.
It'll be next Sunday, obviously. And when I get home, I'll give you a ring, pop in with it, and I'll see if I can solder it in place if it's come loose.
Okay.
Hopefully it hasn't been any tracks.
I gotta go take the dust caps off my telescope, otherwise it's gonna be pointless. Just 1 second here.
What's the picture on the wall behind you there, Fabian?
I'm trying to think where we got that one. Yeah, it was just a print that we got. Ooh. Honestly, I can't remember. You talking about the big one?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a print that my wife, she found somewhere. No, I don't exactly know where she got it.
When I said yes, I'm here shaking my head. Unfortunately, you can't see it.
Yeah. I didn't take a look. Let's see.
My guide scope's out of focus. Hang on, I'm just gonna do a refocus.
And it's dark enough now for me to do an autofocus here. 1 sec.
Not sure where we got it.
Just checking here at the moment, Fabian, to see if it's dark enough to focus.
Yeah.
It might actually be. I'm going to try and share this. Let's see if it works here. 1 sec. Share screen. Let's see if this works. Sequence Generator Pro. Sure. Can you see Sequence Generator Pro up there at the moment? That doesn't look too good. I don't think it's dark enough to focus just yet.
So Jeff, you get your autofocuser figured out?
I think so. I had to get rid of that Raspberry Pi. It just wasn't cutting it for me.
Oh, really?
Can you guys hear me there at the moment?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was muted and didn't notice it. So it's doing an autofocus now, hopefully. Looks like Pat Kelly's there. One sec, I'll let him in. Hi, Pat. Hopefully he will, there he says it's connected. Hi, Pat. You'll have to unmute to talk there.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So we'll soon see, Jeff, if I get a V-curve out of this or if it's dark enough yet to focus. Yeah, it's looking like it's going to do the job.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good curve there starting.
Yeah, it's starting anyway. Afternoon or evening, Pat.
Yes, I'm using it on my iPad for the first time, so it took me a while to figure out how to unmute.
Yeah, I have my video on. Unfortunately, no one can see me because it is dark out and I'm at the telescope. Surprise, surprise.
That would explain the black square.
Yeah, one sec. See, I am here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just focusing the telescope here at the moment, or more to the point, the software is focusing the telescope here at the moment. At least I hope it will. It's not dark yet. I still have blue sky, so this should be entertaining.
I'm starting to lose the north now.
Yeah, now the fun starts. All the mosquitoes see the light from my tablet. Every insect for miles comes zooming in. Well, so far, at least the cloud that's here is staying to the west, so that will be good.
Blair, can you see a cloud behind me?
That's all I can see behind you.
Yeah.
What was the beep?
Oh, sorry, that was my phone.
Oh. I thought somebody's Earl Grey tea was ready.
I got my coffee. There we are again. You can see that, right? Yeah. I've got my coffee thermos all set to go. So what it's doing at the moment, Pat, is it's running an autofocus routine, and I've got an autofocuser on the scope here, or I shouldn't say an autofocuser. It's called a focus cube. It's a motorized focuser, and the software I use to control the camera has an autofocus routine. So what it's doing is it starts off in the last position that I had it in, which happened to have been pretty close to focus, and it racks it out quite a bit, and then it steps in for 9 individual steps, and it's done what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's on its 7th one now, and it's attempting to find a V shape in this curve. And so now you can see it's starting to turn up now. It may go through another cycle of this because it hasn't turned up enough yet. And what it'll do is it's plotting a parabola against that. And when it gets enough of them, the parabolic shape will turn green, and it will have found the point of perfect focus, hopefully.
Huh. So at what point do you completely become redundant to the entire proceedings?
Oh, that happened when I put the focuser on. I can click go and go to bed.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's now found the focus point.
Oh, okay.
It'll take a few more points and finish off the V curve. The curve, again, I'm about to point at the screen. Like that's going to do any good, right? You can see on the left-hand side there, there's only 1 point going up, so it's taking another shot or two, and then we'll see how it looks here. So now it's trying. So what it should be doing now is verifying focus, and we'll see what it looks like here in a sec.
So Blair, do you have a filter wheel, or you just have that set up there?
Oh, I don't. My filter's just screwed in the. There we go. Looks like it's got focus. Let's see what it says here. Yeah, it's happy. We have focus. Ooh, we even have the evening's target. That
Yeah, I see that.
blob in the middle is, of course, the Dumbbell Nebula. Oh, I never knew I could do that. Can you see that?
Yep.
I don't know how I did that.
I think I did that.
Oh, that could
There's an edit tool here, and I thought, I've never seen this in Zoom before, and I just ran my finger across the screen. You're wondering about that green line?
Oh, that's neat.
You ruin
And
my
now I'm gonna do,
pictures,
how do,
if you ruin my pictures, Kelly, you're in trouble.
there seems to be an erase tool, but it's hidden behind your picture. So let me just see here. Ah, okay. Now I see you all. There's eraser. Oh, there's undo.
There we go.
There you go.
Hey, so we can draw on there.
Yeah, at least with the iPad version of it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to shrink this down a bit here. There we are. So what you see there is the what that's showing you with all those numbers that make it kind of hard to see is the half flux radius of all of the stars, and that's the measure it uses when it does autofocus. It tries to reduce that as low as possible, and so that basically gives you an idea of focus. So that as that number gets higher, you're further out of focus, and when it gets to its smallest, you're in focus, or as good a focus as you're going to get at any rate.
Okay.
And so the software I'm running here tonight, let's see if I can do this. I got to stop sharing for a second, and then I have to share my screen, my whole desktop. Where is it? Show all windows. There used to be one that said share desktop. Where'd it go? There's a white pad.
I think you gotta take it at full screen mode.
There it is. Got it. So I can share the screen. So now you guys should be able to see my screen. It's still got the same view you had. But if I pop over now to this piece of software, you should see what looks like a little planetarium program.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's working. So this is the telescope control code that comes with the mount. It's a Celestron package called CPWI. The C stands for Celestron, and the PWI stands for Plane Wave Instruments. They got together and wrote this package. And it's basically one of these packages that models the pointing error for the telescope. And so as a result, I get extremely good pointing errors, or extremely low pointing errors, I should say, with just 4 stars picked. You can see the stars I used to calibrate. I got Arcturus, Elkid, Vega, and Altair in there. And so with just those 4 stars, we get pretty much pinpoint pointing accuracy. And it's got a nice polar alignment routine built in as well. Basically what it does is after you've aligned to the sky, you point to a star somewhere in the south where it's best. The routine is called all-star polar alignment. It's a version of what's built in all Celestron mounts. It should be called some star polar alignment because you cannot use all stars, but we won't go there. Oh, one sec, we got someone else coming in. But basically what it does is when you're ready to align, you tell it what star you want to align on, you center the star up quite accurately, and then hit the sort of done button. And it will move the mount to where it will offset from the star by the right amount, so that if you bring the star back into the center of the field, the telescope will be polar aligned. And of course, you bring the star in by moving the mount at that point, so you change its altitude and azimuth. And so polar alignment, what used to take, 20, 30 minutes, literally takes under 5 minutes and you're done.
Oh, wow. That is convenient.
Done to, accuracy is well better than an arc minute most times.
Oh. So what's the red line with the little cursor on it?
Red line with a little cursor on it. I don't see little cursor, but I'm assuming the red line you mean is the one that's sort of slightly tilted in the center of the field?
Yeah, the cursor is right about there.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. That is the meridian, and the little cursor is sort of right overhead.
Oh, so it probably marks the zenith point or something like that.
Yeah. Now, generally, I use this software to set up the mount, and I use the software as a, oh, hi, Matthew, I see you just got in there. If you want to talk, you'll have to unmute your mic, by the way. But I generally use the software as an ASCOM driver, and I use several other packages to control the telescope. Most of the telescope control is actually done through a package I wrote called, okay, I got to tap it here, called Mosaic Engine. I wrote it to do mosaics, so you'll see, you know, X-frame, percent overlap, and that sort of stuff. But it's also got a bunch of databases for stars and deep sky targets. And some of the nice parts about it is it has some image-based telescope control. So I can literally, you know, pull up an image that I take and just click on it, single click and center things. Once you calibrate it, it measures your camera rotation, all that fun stuff. The other thing that's nice about it, I built a nudge control in it, and this is quickly becoming my favorite control. So I can move, you know, north, south, east, or west. But the nice part about it is it tracks where the telescope is in the sky. So once you set it up, then north always moves the star in the same direction in the image. And so as a result, you don't, you know, if you're used to using the hand controller, it's always a 50-50 guess as to whether you get the right button. You don't have that problem with this package. It just sort of keeps track of it all for you. Almost getting dark here now. We have a few people in here, so I'm going to run a little video, just give you an idea where I'm shooting from. Jeff will probably do the same thing there in a minute. Let's just see if this works. So can you folks see that up on my screen now?
Yes, it's a lake with a dock.
It's a river with a dock, actually. What I don't know is whether the audio will come across. So I'm going to hit play and we'll soon see here. Let me know if the audio is coming across as it plays.
Just thought I'd give you an idea of where I'm imaging from. We're on the banks of the Mary River and Mary Bridge.
Can you hear the audio?
Yeah.
Cooperate, and we get a chance to take a few images. So I'm just walking up the side of the cottage here now, and coming over to the telescope, which just got taken out from the truck. And so you can see there's the scopes that we'll be using tonight, just around the side of the cottage. It's again at 60 DA, and there's a 30 auto. Samsung Windows 10 tablet down here. I would be inside the cottage, hiding from the flies, and just remote desktop into the tablet and run the whole system from inside. But weather permitting and flies permitting, I think we'll run things from inside here for a while tonight, at least it gets a little too chilly, and be able to look at the sky at the same time as the telescope is imaging it. So anyway, that's where I'm imaging from, and Jeff hopefully will have a little video of his side as well. Give you an idea of where we're shooting from today.
Okay, now this gets fun. There we go. I can shut the video down now with a little luck. Okay, I got to stop sharing here for a second. There we are. Okay, so that gives you an idea of where I'm shooting from. And I see Matthew's in a dark area as well. His camera doesn't show up there. So I'm here on the banks of the Myra River, our cottage, and it's so far at least still clear. I'm actually pointed at the target for the evening. It's not dark enough yet to start shooting, but it is getting there. How many night is it? 9 o'clock. And yeah, we have. Of course, it worked when you tested it this afternoon, Matthew. It always does. We're chuckling. I'm the dark rectangle over called Halifax Center RASC. Since I'm outside and there's no light here, you can't see me, although my webcam is on. Yeah, fair enough. That's true. He said just like everything else in astronomy, everything else astronomy related, there are bugs. So Jeff, did you have a little video you wanted to play while we're getting set up?
I do, but I don't know how well it's going to play, but we can try playing it. I think it's like 3 minutes long.
You share your screen.
Okay.
And then you should be able to share the video. While you're doing that, I'm just going to pop in the cottage a second and grab a sweater. It's getting just a little bit.
It says the host is disabled participant.
Okay, let me see how I can fix that. Yeah, good question. How do I do that? Maybe here under security. Allow participants to share screen. There we go.
All right, let's try that. For some reason, the video doesn't show up in the list here. Just a second.
So Fabian is joining us again. So it's letting you share there now, Jeff?
It is. I just need to find where I put the video.
Okay. Well, you're doing that. I'm just going to go grab a sweater. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, I'm good. So Jeff, your dome, it's a roll off, isn't it? You converted it. Jeff.
Now I just need to figure out how to stop this. Just a second here.
And I think you go right up to the top of the screen, and it should say "Stop sharing."
Okay, here. Um,
Okay, guys, I made it back. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm going to have enough stars for polar alignment.
So did you customize that roll-off part for the dome?
The table, I got some ideas offline. Now SkyShed, they do make their own table, but I didn't feel like it was sturdy enough for to hold the weight. So I found a few designs online, and I just had a local guy that came down, had a look at it, and built it for me, and it actually seems to work pretty good. The only issue that I'm having right now is that the table is sort of tilted because we couldn't dig down far enough for the footing, and so now I need to get that fixed. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So it makes it easier to roll off the roof.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that you could actually that they had a modification to let you do that with the dome.
Yeah, there's you have to buy a kit, and it basically it replaces the rollers, and you can get these little, kind of turn the light off. You get these little clips that locks the rollers on to the side of the wall, and then you can actually remove the whole thing, and then that gives you the ability to move the roof off. I just wanted to show you how I do a polar alignment. I don't usually do it a whole lot because it is pier mounted.
Are these multiple images we're seeing go by?
Well, see, what you're seeing here is down right here. If you can see my mouse, that is Polaris. And what it's doing is it's doing a plate solve of the various stars in the field. Yep. And once it gets a lock on the stars, you click on next. And then what it wants you to do is to rotate the right ascension axis about 90 degrees or 45 degrees or 90 degrees or something. And I'm going to do that, but I have to put this down just 1 second here and I'll show you.
We've had another couple of people join. Matthew is here, and I think I saw Bob join us as well, although he's not showing up in the video, so I'm assuming he doesn't have his video turned on.
Okay, so you can kind of see here with the few stars that I can get that the polar alignment is fair. So I don't know if maybe I bumped a knob or something. But if you click on next, it tells you where you need to move the mount. So it looks like it's fine usually, or it's pretty good up and down, but there's the elevation and left and right, I need to adjust that. So just hang on a second and I'll do that. But I have to use a headset because my my speakers, they don't seem to work anymore. So just 1 second. So that's pretty much it for a polar alignment. That's close enough, I guess, for what I want to demonstrate. But I don't have enough stars to do any sort of imaging tonight, I don't think. So my goal here, get Sequence Generator Pro here. Was to shoot the Butterfly Nebula, but I'm not going to be able to do that here. It's way too cloudy. So I think I'll stop the share here and see if Blair has anything good to show us.
Okay, so you stop your share. I'm going to start mine. Bear with me. And share the screen. Share. Okay, can everyone see my screen there now? Yep. Okay, so there are a couple of pieces of software I tend to use while I'm imaging. As I said, the main driver for the telescope is a package Celestian has called CPWI. It does a nice job of mount modeling, so I get very accurate pointing, even without plate solving. As you guys saw earlier, basically I told it to go to M27, and it's pretty much smack dab in the middle of the field. John Higgins is coming in there, we'll admit him. So it's all set up, it's up and running, and the majority of the telescope control, after I get it running under CPWI, I tend to use Mosaic Engine, which is a package I wrote, simply because it's got some nice image-based telescope control. And I'll give you an idea of how that works. There's a couple of steps involved. Unfortunately, I'm now using Sequence Generator, well, not unfortunately. I'm now using Sequence Generator Pro. And one of the problems with Sequence Generator Pro is it does not take JPEG images and store them. And of course, I wrote Mosaic Engine to use JPEGs just because it seemed to be more universally available. So I have to sort of go through a couple of packages here. So just bear with me a minute. I'm just going to shrink down. Go. I don't want it. There. So we're all in focus now, and everything should be ready to go. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a short 20-second exposure. Not using live view, we'll use a JPEG, and I'll save it. So what this is going to do, this is going to take a short 20-second exposure of the area of the sky that we're looking at. And what I will have to do, I'll have to bring that exposure into Images Plus and convert it to a JPEG. And then once I've got it as a JPEG, I can show you what I mean by the image-based telescope control stuff here. So it's downloading it now. Let me just close this window. Okay, let's try that again. Things get a little slow. There we go. Shrink the video down here. Bear with me. There we go. I pushed the wrong button. Bear with me. There we go. So now we're taking that exposure and hopefully saving it to disk as it's supposed to. You can see we're ever so slightly off center. And you can see some minor tracking error there since I'm not guiding at the moment. All in all, not bad for a 20-second exposure.
Now, Blair, just out of curiosity, like when I'm taking shots with my one-shot color,
yep.
I'm not seeing a preview in color. It's monochrome.
Can you see my cursor moving at all?
Yeah, so it's the JPEG checkbox,
Yes,
is it?
you got to do the JPEG checkbox.
Okay, I'm gonna check that and see if I've got that option. I didn't remember seeing that.
So now, if we go, I've got to unfortunately take a roundabout way to get that image. So please bear with me here. We have to go to Images Plus. Oops, sorry, I want to move. I store my images on a little SD card on my tablet, and unfortunately, it's very slow to process them off that. So normally I wouldn't even bother doing what I'm doing right now. But I'm just going to move it to the So here we have the frame and focus images that we just took. And there are two of them here. Let's grab this one. I'm just going to move it to the desktop on this computer where it's much quicker to process it. So just bear with me a second. Desktop.
Yeah, I don't have JPEG option on mine, so I'm wondering if maybe it's a limitation of my camera.
Could be, or yeah, probably is. Because I'm using a DSLR, I can dump the data as a JPEG. So now if we open that image, let's see here. And I just have to save that image as a JPEG here, so bear with me. It'll help if I get to where I want to be. Desktop. There it is, frame and focus 2. So here's our image. And you can see in the middle right here, or almost in the middle, is our target for the evening. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to save that as, oh, I didn't make it color yet. Looks like Tim wants to get in, so I'll let Tim in. 1 second, I got to make that image color. So we want to do, come on, mouse. And we'll set up an RGB image. Bear with me here. Takes a second for it to punch. Okay, so now we have that image. And we'll open it up as a color image. There we go. And now I just have to save it as a JPEG. I'm in the middle of adding FITS file support, so I don't have to do this anymore. Once I get it done, I'll release a new version and we'll solve having to do this part. There we go. So now I can take that image and I can open it up in the graphical telescope control window. And in order to calibrate the window, basically all you end up doing, there's several ways to do it, but the one I tend to use the most is calibrate it from the SAO database. So what it does is it's generating an image overlay. And what the overlay will do is it will get some stars from the SAO database, and they should be pretty close. We'll soon see here. It's generating the database image now. So, okay, here we are. So you can see the blue blobs that are there are the stars that found in the database, and you have to find the equivalent star in the image. And in this case, it's pretty straightforward. We've got one right here. And then at that point, you just click on the blue star from the database, and you do that for one more star. Looks like this one. And then this one. And it says we're now calibrated, and there is the center of the image. Now, the nice part about that is now I can come here, and I can just click on that, and this menu shows up. Is the menu visible there, guys?
Yeah, the menu's there.
Okay, so we can do a couple of things now. I can center the scope on the target right there. I can click and drag that target to any position, or I can sync the scope on the target, or I can sync the scope to the image center. I can even auto-locate where the telescope is pointing within reason, of course. So for instance, if we just wanted to say, okay, I'm just simply going to center the scope on the target. My scope is now moving, which of course you guys can't see it all, but it would just move a little bit. And let's see where we end up. So we'll take another one of these images. I'm so close actually right there, it may not make any difference because the scope pointing arrow may just simply move it to one side, but we'll soon see. 4 seconds left before it starts downloading. And you can see there it is. It's just moved a little bit. So that should be reasonably close. There you go. Well, it's a little off image center, but not too bad. I can crop that and get what I want. So it's probably close enough for what I'm doing here tonight. And while we're waiting, I'm simply going to close down that. The other option, of course, to find things is you can just pull up a list. In this case, for instance, we'll pull up the list. And once the list is up, I can say I want to go to M27, click OK, and it will move the telescope to M27, which of course is in the middle of doing there now. Once it's gotten to the target, the next thing we have to do is we have to set up guiding. So what I'm going to do here now, this is a software package called PhD. Sounds like it might have something to do with a doctorate, but it actually stands for Push Here Done. It was written by Craig Stark at Stark Labs, the guy that came up with Nebulosity and a few other programs. And he wrote it to make guiding simple. And it is very simple. You basically, I'm assuming you guys can see this. Once it's connected, which it is now, you start looping. Now you're seeing exposures off the guide camera. And you basically pick a star in the image. You can actually make it pick the star for you, but for tonight's purposes, we'll pick this star. And then we just tell it to start guiding. It is all calibrated, so it should just start guiding here. So in this chart down here, I'm assuming you can see my cursor moving around there. That is the guide error that you're seeing. And the blue trace is rate ascension. The red trace is declination. The chart up here, the bullseye diagram, is also quite useful. It lets you know basically what your overall guide error looks like. Generally, you want to see that be somewhat circular. And so far, so good. So now we'll go to Sequence Generator Pro. And I've got a sequence all set up here to image the target. Oops, hang on. To image the target that we want here for the evening. Yeah, how do I move that? Yeah. Without stopping the share, of course. There we go. So the idea here is I'm connected to my camera. I have a manual filter wheel, which in this case is no filter wheel at all. And we're set up to image M27. And I'm going to take 30 exposures of 10 minutes each. And there's one single filter in here, which is the Optolong L-enhanced filter. So if we click Run Sequence, it should grab control of PhD, acquire a guide star, do everything for us. And Pat, you asked, you know, at which point, Gary Black is there, the birthday boy himself. So everybody wish Gary a happy birthday.
Only 40.
Happy birthday, Jerry.
Happy birthday.
So at any rate, now this is Sequence Generator Pro, as I said, and Pat, you had asked earlier at which point I become redundant. As soon as I click this button right here, I can then go in and it'll do all the work for me. It'll do a bunch of things. It's set up to do autofocus every hour. So the last time we focused was at 8:50, which was about half an hour ago. I'm going to run autofocus one more time simply so that other people can see it run and they get an idea of what I'm talking about when I mention autofocus. I just have to move a window here, bear with me. There we are. So basically autofocus is set up, and what it's going to do, it's going to close this window down so you can see it here. It's going to take an image, measure the width effectively of the star. It's called the half flux radius. And it's going to then move the focuser a little bit at a time and attempt to get that half flux radius as small as possible. So now we're running an auto focus routine here, and this will actually run several times tonight. I'll probably be out here imaging till around midnight or so, maybe a little later, if the clouds hold off. So far the sky is looking pretty good here, and I got to turn my screen brightness down, bear with me. That's interesting. Come on, get out. There we go. So what it's supposed to be doing here, analyzing the star data, it will plot up. So there is the first star, or the first half flux radius measurement, and it's a measurement of the half flux radius of all of the stars in the image, not just one. So it's sort of the average. And then it moves the focus a little bit. So what it did first, it backed the focus way off so that it was actually out of focus. And now it's moving inward, and it moves in by a fixed amount each time. I think I've got it set to 90 steps of the focuser. It's got a little shaft encoder on them. I think it's on the motor, and it'll go around 90 times. That'll be one step. So you can see what it's done now. It started off here. Now the star, if you look, this is focus position along the x-axis, and the half flux radius is along the y-axis. So you can see the star is getting smaller as it moves the focuser inward. So the autofocus routine starts by moving the focuser out quite a bit, a fixed amount of steps, and then it begins moving it inward, and it's going to plot the curve of that, and it should look like effectively a V, kind of a big wide V, and it fits a parabolic shape to that. From that curve fit of the parabola, it will actually use that to determine where the best point of focus is. It's going to take 9 images here, so bear with me, this takes a few minutes. And on top of autofocus, I've also got a little temperature probe hooked into the focuser. And that temperature probe measures temperature. Oops, we got a cloud moving over. I don't see one. Not quite sure why that jumped up there. We'll see what happens in a minute. We didn't do that when we did this before. And any rate, what will happen is every so often, if the temperature drops enough, it will actually move the focuser a little bit in between autofocus runs. So in between each frame, it'll move the focuser just a little bit. It'll autofocus once an hour. And so I generally autofocus at the beginning of each imaging run. Let's see which way this goes. I might have had, yeah, okay. I probably bumped the telescope or something dumb like that to produce that. My feet are right by the tripod legs. So. It's going to
So
take...
you're saying you have it set to autofocus once an hour, but in between frames, does it autofocus continuously as you're shooting or between frames?
It temperature compensates between frames. And then once an hour, it'll autofocus.
Okay.
And if I can keep from bumping the telescope mount, we would have had a nice clean V curve, but let's see what happens here. So it's attempting to fit a parabola to the shape, and it takes the bottom point of the parabola as the point of perfect focus. So it actually focuses to the mathematical curve fit. It doesn't focus to the actual data points at all.
Blair, do you know if it stops guiding during the autofocusing or keeps guiding going?
I have it set to stop guiding. You have the choice. Good evening, Judy.
Good evening.
I'm being ignored. I'm used to it.
No, my husband had muted it before I could respond.
Ah. You guys can't see me here because it's so dark, but I'm busily swatting mosquitoes that are flying around. The hard part is they fly right into the tablet, and they sit on the display, and I want to swat them. The problem is it's a touch pad. So if I touch it and I happen to hit a cancel button, something weird happens.
Blair, are you at SCO?
No, I'm at the cottage here in the Mire River.
Oh, okay, I thought so. I just wasn't sure. You mean there's actually mosquitoes there?
Oh yeah, we have lots of mosquitoes, big ones. You didn't tune in early enough to see the video
No.
of where we were, but so now what it's doing is that curve was so crappy, it's redoing it, I think. We'll soon see. Oh, it might be taking the, we'll see in a minute. It might redo the curve, and I'll attempt not to bump it this time.
Yeah, it's actually clear. It's actually cleared up a little bit here in Enfield, so I'm doing an autofocus myself.
Okay, so once Jeff gets focused, what's your target if things go well? The Butterfly Nebula?
Yeah, I see 1318.
Yeah.
Jeff,
You're lucky. You're lucky. It's Tim here. We haven't seen a clear night in about 8 days.
That's right.
We've had similar luck. I've been, as I said earlier in the evening, I've been sort of evaluating this filter, and it worked quite well in the city. I was quite pleased. It didn't. It's an Optolong Ellenhance, by the way.
Okay.
It didn't give me any more detail than I got without the filter. I was able to get basically very similar images with and without the filter, even with lots of light pollution from the city. The difference is it made the processing a fair amount easier.
That's right.
And so now I'm trying it in dark skies. I want to see if I can enhance, I get a little bit of narrowband detail in some of the images. So tonight's image is M27, the Dumbbell Nebula. And my plan is to be able to take some RGB data that I had captured last year and combine it with it's still RGB data from the filter, but it's narrow band RGB data, and see if I can pull out a little more detail. So I'm going to image on it for quite a while tonight. I'll probably try and get 3 or 4 hours, and we'll see how it turns out.
What I've been doing is collecting data on dark nights in RGB, and then on a target like the North American Nebula, I've been trying that one, and the Veil Nebula. And then during times when the moon is out, I'll collect more data with the filter on, the hydrogen alpha data, and results are pretty nice.
Yeah. So at any rate, I'm hoping it will give me some narrowband detail. Like I said, it's from the city. It seems to be working quite well. From dark skies here at the cottage, I can't really say. The reason I can't really say is the moon has been up every night I've had a clear night here. So I get like 15 minutes and the moon would come up. This is the first decently dark night without the moon in the sky. I'm just looking around now and I see lots of stars, so hopefully this will work. The V curve is looking much better now that I'm not kicking the telescope. So let's see how the autofocus runs this time.
Yeah, mine actually, I got the best V curve I've ever seen, so it actually worked. Now I'm doing a plate solve to center the object.
So you're running again on a PC, are you, Jeff?
Yeah, I gave up on. Sorry, I gave up on the Raspberry Pi. I couldn't take it.
Sick 'em, Jerry.
I appreciate Jerry's help, but I could not get that autofocuser to work properly. And
yeah, I was going to ask you whether you got it to work. That's the only problem I have with K-Star is in my case, the autofocuser recognizes the subportions of a star. So when there's a star obviously there, it recognizes 3 or 4 points within that star as sub-stars, and that screws up the half flux radius.
Yeah, and it does. And, you know, to be perfectly honest, the last night before I tore it off my telescope, not in a literal sense, but it actually worked. And I tested it with a Batmouth mask, and it was perfect focus. But the problem I found with the Stellarmate was that it was hit or miss. And hit or miss for me is a deal breaker, right? Because especially when you're wasting hours of telescope, and then all of a sudden you have to throw away half of your subs, right?
Yeah, well, I haven't thrown much away, but I have very rarely let it do its own thing without watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten comfortable enough with the autofocus routine in Sequence Generator Pro to basically start it shooting and just go in the house and let it do its thing.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, when I'm at home in Halifax, I will remote desktop into my tablet, which is out in the driveway, and I can sort of watch what it's doing and at the same time watch TV or put my feet up and read a book, whatever. Here at the cottage, I could probably do the same thing. I'm not tonight, simply because it's a nice night out, and I thought I'd actually, heaven forbid, look through something. I have her binoculars here with me, and I'll take a look at the sky as the night goes on.
Well, that curve looks pretty good.
Yeah, this is typical of what I get. It's, what shot is it on here now? I didn't watch as it was doing its thing. It'll tell me in a minute. It says it's 100% complete, which probably means it's taking the verification image. It moves the scope to the focus position that it found, and then it takes a shot. So let's see what it comes up with here, see if it's happy.
Are you finding, Blair, that your temperature compensation is working good?
It does work reasonably well. I have a dew heater, which tends to screw those up. But the simple fact of the matter is it works better than not having it.
Yeah.
It is not perfect. And maybe so you can see here's the autofocus is finished. It's picked the focus position at 31,496. And if you look up here, that it's set the focuser to that now, and we're good to go for about an hour now before it'll autofocus again. So if we bring up that sequence now, and I click run sequence, it'll get boring for 10 minutes, and then an image will pop up. It should actually, if we go here, so we're guiding again now, as you can see. And so if I start the sequence, so run sequence, it will check that the auto guider is running. It'll check that it's settled. So it just waits for it to have very little change. And now we've started an exposure. The camera is now exposing, and it will continue to do so for 10 minutes, and then an image will pop up on the screen, and I will find that a satellite has gone through, a cloud has moved over, any one of a number of things that will make me curse and swear, and then it'll just continue doing that. So a couple of things to take a look at. There are several little docked, and some of you who use Sequence Generator Pro will be familiar with these, several little docked modules on both sides of my screen. The main sequence system is here, is here in the middle. That's a floating window that I can close at any time. And I have two views over here, two tabs that I've put in this one. One is the pan and zoom that let me zoom in on the window and see what's going on. The other one is a rough view of the PhD guide graph. I generally pop back to PhD itself because it gives a much better view of what's going on, but it comes in handy. The other thing is the bottom one I find quite useful. That's this one, the bottom left. That is the focus history. And so what that does is that plots the half flux radius measurement from image to image, and you can actually see then what's happening, how the stars are getting good or bad, and you can make a decision whether or not you want to run autofocus early by just taking a look at that, and it will track all of the shots that you're doing. So it's quite useful in that sense. Up top, this is the image statistics, and here is actually the image histogram. And I wanted to turn on a stretch here. We'll go with low and see what happens. You can set a screen stretch for your data so you can actually see the target when it pops up. With a 10-minute exposure, what time of night is it? Well, we're about 10 minutes away from the end of astronomical twilight. So 10 minutes should give me a decent shot. I'm looking up, of course, I'm staring at a computer screen, and then I look up at the sky and I wonder why I can't see the Milky Way, because I'm not dark about it. But it does look nice and clear here at the moment. Sagittarius is going down behind me there, and I can see the Milky Way if I look over there. So we'll see how this shot turns out.
Did you meant to set the exposure to 600?
Sorry, say that again, Pat?
Had you meant to set the exposure to 600 because it's counting down from 5 hours?
It's not counting down from 5 hours. Well, that's not quite true. It is counting down from a long time, but that's 30 600-second exposures. You can see them in the sequence right here. Can you see my mouse moving?
Yeah, that's what I meant, because 600 seconds is 10 minutes.
It is,
Yeah,
but then
Four hours,
there are 30 of those. You notice it's going to repeat that 30 times?
But the time remaining is 4 minutes and 56 seconds.
No, the time remaining is 4 hours, 56 minutes, and 26 seconds.
All right.
That's for the whole sequence.
Okay.
That's 30 10-minute exposures.
Okay, so you're actually going to do a 5-hour run?
Probably not. I'll probably stop at 3 or 4.
Okay, I just think that's a long time to wait to get one image.
Oh, no. The image will pop up in 10 minutes. In actually 357 seconds, as you can see down here. And if we just take a look to see how our guiding is looking, it's not too bad. Tonight's error is, if you look here, the total error is about 0.7 arc seconds. And I'm betting it's a really tiny cloud moving over our guide star.
You lost your star, Blair.
I don't see any cloud up there. Yeah, we'll see what happens here in a minute. You can see the dip right here in the brightness of the star. It was a fairly dim star, so maybe I want to pick a brighter one.
Your SNR is only 25.
What's that?
Your signal to noise ratio is quite low.
25 is not bad. I generally guide on that or lower, but we can easily pick a brighter guide star here if I just do that and say start. And then we have another.
But it had gone back to being guiding, right? It had already started guiding.
Yeah, it popped right back to guiding.
Yeah.
Now that guide star may be a little too bright.
Too much.
Yeah. Matter of fact, 1 second till I move this so I can see it. Yeah, if you look up here, that guide star is actually clipped, but not too bad.
It says it's saturated in the bottom there.
Yeah.
What's that?
The bottom was indicating saturated there, SAT.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
SAT,
it's definitely saturated, but it's not too badly saturated. So we'll let it go and see what the guiding ends up looking like. It's still pretty acceptable. It's still below an arc second, which is not bad. The fact that star is getting a little dimmer, though, would lead me to believe there's a cloud moving.
There's some high cloud. Yeah.
I don't see it. But that doesn't mean it's not there.
There was some in the forecast for Halifax.
Yeah, we could have I'm just going to take a look around here. Bear with me a minute.
Yeah, I'm losing my star too. Like, I see all kinds of stars, but they're dropping.
We'll soon see how this does. There is a little bit of high cloud that I can see there. Hopefully it will move off. They did say a few clouds tonight here, so if worst comes to worst, I can actually, heaven forbid, look at the satellite chart. Let's see how our sequence.
So, I got a quick question. So I never ever did that in the middle of an image before, switching stars and guiding, so that won't affect nothing, will it?
As long as you do it quick enough and you don't have any abrupt motion in your mount, you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Having said that, we'll have double stars in this image. You watch. So there's about a little under 3 minutes left now. I'm assuming you folks can see and hear me okay. I get the occasional message from Zoom that my internet connection is unstable. I'm assuming everything is
Can't
still...
see you. Can hear you okay, but not see you.
Well, that's true. You won't be able to see me. I could probably just turn my video off and save some bandwidth. It is dark here, to say the least. But 1 second. I don't... I was about to turn a white light on to show you that I am really here, but I don't think I will, given the scope is directly above me.
Don't do that.
So we've got about 2 minutes left now. There's 125 seconds left, and then we'll see what it comes up with. I'm just going to close down the sequence window so that we can see it when it shows up here, and hopefully we have our target. I did not check that the target was centered before I... someone has got the chat opened up.
I still got 200 seconds left on mine.
I just went out and checked our sky. We have cloud to the south, but it's clear overhead and to the north for now.
Well, hopefully we will get a few images here tonight. We have 80 seconds left. So. And,
We're still recovering from chocolate cake.
I saw that picture you sent me. That was just cruel. See, that's what happens when you get old, Jerry. You get cruel like that.
That just comes naturally.
Judy's agreeing with you. Look at that. And like I said, this part is a little like watching grass grow. You sit here and wait for 10 minutes for a shot to come by, and then you curse and swear because there's something went through the field or it didn't guide properly or any one of a number of things. Like high cloud.
I can definitely see that the seeing is improving.
Yeah, high cloud will definitely screw up my filter evaluation, but let's see how it goes here. This is the first shot for the evening, and we're just coming to the end of twilight, so the next shot counts.
Yeah, that's one reason I went to a faster imaging system. I couldn't do it anymore. There was, especially here in Southwest Nova, it seems to be, we get a lot of clear nights, but it seems like it's only partly clear sometimes, like for an hour or so, or half an hour, and then it's cloudy and clear again.
Okay. So there's our shot. You take a
Awesome.
look. Let's see what we've
No
got.
trailing stars either.
Well, I haven't zoomed in yet, so don't say that just yet.
Okay.
Don't jinx it.
That's not debared yet, I take it.
That is not debared yet. That is correct.
No.
And there are no stars trailed. That's at 120% there.
Yep.
Nice.
Good. Mine's downloading too.
So there's a little noise in the image, but it's not too bad. The nebula is not saturated, which is good. If you look at the histogram, there is one little line here which represents saturated stars. The rest of the data is all down here, and it doesn't look too bad.
That's good.
Now, in order to see that in color, I have to actually process it. So that's not that difficult to do. And I should also point out some other things that has happened here now. If I go over to the PhD display, you'll see it was guiding happily here, and then you see this big blip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using dithering, so it slightly moves the, it slightly moves the telescope. And the reason I'm using dithering is it removes any pattern noise in the image. So if I've got a little bit of lines in the image or hot pixels, when I average them all together and align all the stars, because I've moved the image a little bit, that tends to average out and drop to zero. So that's, you can see what it's done. It's moved the telescope, then brought it back to a position that's slightly different than it was before. And now it's guiding again and exposing, and you can see up here in this bullet diagram, and this bullseye diagram, that the guiding is quite good. It's quite nice and tight. The total looks high here right now at 3.4 arc seconds, but that's only because it includes the dithering. Once the dithering drops off the screen, that'll come down substantially, probably lower than an arc second from the looks of it. Yeah, it's now down at 0.93 arc seconds, 0.9. It'll probably get down around 0.7 by the time it's done. So not bad, 0.79 arc seconds. So the scene is actually pretty good here at the moment. And if I take a copy of that image, again, I don't want to process it from the SD card. It takes forever. It's not a fast SD card by any means. But here's my first image, and I'll just copy it out to the desktop where we can process it.
Sorry, what camera are you using?
It's a 60DA Canon.
The 60DA, yeah.
60DA.
Yep. Cool. Yeah.
It's been modified, has it not?
Modified is the wrong word to use, I guess, simply because it's stock. But the A part means it is actually modified by Canon.
Right, got that.
Yeah, they slightly modify the filter. So I'm going to paste that here. There we go. So now I should be able to open that and debear it. Bear with me. Oops, wrong one. So we want to convert that. Okay, where to go? M27 filtered at the cottage. I think that's it. We don't want any white balance. By the way, anyone that does use a DSLR and they use a filter, I discovered totally by accident that if you have white balance on, it is a very bad thing when you use a filter. What it does is it produces a jumble of noise because it tries to apply a white balance for a full spectrum shot, and the full spectrum is not there. There's only discrete lines. Okay, let's see what this looks like and just how much noise is in that particular subframe. So we've got this one, I think. Oops, I bumped it twice. So if we just sort of take a quick look at that 10-minute exposure. Get rid of that checkered pattern. There we go.
There it is.
My tablet is substantially slower than the machine I normally do the processing. Something. Sequence 1. Yeah, okay, not a problem. I don't particularly care if Sequence Generator Pro just disconnected from the telescope because it's not controlling the telescope connect. So now if we take this shot and we sort of zoom in a bit and we find there we go. That gives you an idea of what a single 10-minute exposure is like through that filter. Now it's a little green. That color cast is a function of the filter, and it's easy to correct. For instance, wait now, that go away. I can come down here and reduce green a little bit, but I think what I'll do is I'll just neutralize the background, which will take most of it out. Neutralize the background. And then once that finishes, we'll set the white point on that star. Put that window on the right. And then we can take the green down just a little bit. By the default, see what happens. There we go. So there is a single 10-minute subframe of one of my favorite planetary nebulas. And so far, I do like what the filter did. I haven't done any fancy processing here, and we've got all the HA detail you can see right here that normally takes a bit of work to pull that out. It pops right out with the filter. So far, so good. Is that coming across okay there, Jerry?
Yeah, it looks pretty good, and I certainly appreciate the fact that you have less work to do from this starting point.
Yeah, the stars are already suppressed by the filter, so I don't have to make a mask to stretch the image, a starless mask, which is quite nice. It works out quite well in the city. Like I said, I can get that same kind of detail. Maybe not quite as much red without the filter, without artificially boosting it. I haven't boosted any colors here. Matter of fact, I'd probably turn the saturation down a bit because it's actually oversaturated right there. So if we sort of say color, and I can turn the saturation level on just the red down. I can hit red instead of yellow. Slide my tablet over a bit. I always hate doing this while it's taking an image, but let's see if I just screwed things up. No, not too bad.
I certainly find with my triad quad filter that I'm happy with the results, and I don't do much processing in terms of star reduction or anything at all. I haven't done that at all, and I appreciate not having to do that, although the exposure times are much longer, right?
Yeah, that is true. For instance, right now I'm using an exposure time of 10 minutes. Without the filter, I'd shoot for 3 to 5. And I'd have a smoother background without the filter. The filter tends to drop the background into the camera noise. So thus I will shoot quite a few subframes to get the camera noise out of there. But you can see I haven't sharpened this at all, and it's not too bad. It's looking pretty good. Guiding is looking pretty good. Still below an arc second, which is good. And we are almost through. Well, we are now through. So the second frame is coming up here now. We'll see what it looks like. Now it will move on the screen, you'll notice. So that's the result of the dithering. You'll notice it shifted down. And what we'll do is, after I get enough of these, I'll sort of begin averaging them, and we get an idea of what the image will look like. So Jeff, have you managed to get an image there?
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. It's here, do you want me to share my screen? I'll show you.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and you can share. And
Okay.
I'm gonna take a quick dash to the washroom and be right back.
Okay.
All yours.
Thanks. It'd help if I picked the right one. This is the Butterfly Nebula. It looks much better when I'm using the L-enhanced filter, of course, but it's downloading a new image right now. But there's a lot of, you can see the stars are pretty big.
Yeah.
That one's not too bad.
How long are your frames? How many minutes?
This is 300 seconds, so 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah. Cool. I haven't tried the butterfly yet.
Yeah, it's there's actually
Yeah.
2 objects I think that the same name, so it makes it confusing trying to find them.
Yeah. Or what's your focal length there?
600 millimeters.
Okay, that's the same as mine. So
Yeah, it's a Skywatcher 8080 Pro, the gold tube version.
you happy with it?
I'm happy. The only problem I have with it is the Crayford focuser. I had issues getting the focus cube to work right, and then Blair told me that there's some screws underneath that you can tighten it up a bit, and that seemed to have done the trick. So focusing seems to be pretty good right now.
Yeah, looks good.
Bad, Jeff.
Aside from the huge Satyr here, I think that's Satyr, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the L-enhanced filter. It makes the stars smaller.
Yeah, it does. It does really help with having to mask. You know, you don't have to do as much masking and stuff when you're processing. It's,
Yeah.
really neat.
So
I just
Jeff, are
wanted
you
to.
using a filter this time?
No, this is just RGB, no filter in place.
You guys have to get a copy of Images Plus. It makes doing that sort of filtering much easier. That masking, rather. It's got a tool for generating starless masks. You can also use, what's the name of the package? StarNet++ does a good job at it as well.
Yeah, it does. See if I can find where I put that. And of course, I'm not using the same computer I do my processing on, so all of my presets are all gone.
I have some high cloud moving through here now, so hopefully it won't destroy the image too badly. We'll soon see if the filter can take out cloud.
I have a little problem with my focuser. I'm using the Celestron focuser, and I had to calibrate it so that when it goes in one direction, it's fine. Then when it switches to the other direction, there's sort of a little bit of almost like a little backlash that happens because of I think it's mostly because of the nature of the SCT scopes. It doesn't go back in the same position right away. It's a little bit of an offset. But nice.
And that's single 300-second image right there.
What do you have for a camera?
It's an old Celestron Nightscape 8300, so it has the Kodak 8300 sensor in it.
Yeah. Nice.
I'm looking at getting a QHY 168C color camera, but
yeah, 100% on that, Jeff.
What's that?
Can you zoom that into 100%? That's not too bad. That's a single. How long was that frame?
300.
I've been.
Yeah, it's a single 5-minute frame. That's not that bad.
little bit of coma there, but it's nothing really to write home about.
No, I was looking at the noise. It's not too bad for a single 5-minute frame.
No. And
I owned a, just say, oh, go ahead.
I think my guiding's pretty good.
I noticed you got your grid set at 4, 8, and 12, as opposed to 1, 2, and 3 on your graph. PhD.
That threw me for a loop the
Yeah.
first time I saw that guide graph. I was looking at it and said, how come mine looks so much worse than that?
Yeah, well, it's very flat looking, but you've expanded your scale.
Did I?
Yeah. I thought that's cool. I've never seen it like that before.
I like it when it's flat.
It's not that one. It's the next button down.
It's the next one down. Yeah. That's, yeah. Make it plus or minus 2 or 1.
I actually go plus or minus 4 most times. But
Yeah. See, that's what mine looks like.
And my image scale is 1.89 arc seconds per pixel. So I'm well below that, I think. 0.89
Oh, yeah.
is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're doing well. This total is 0.19.
All right, well, I'll turn my share off. There we go.
You're starting.
One thing you may want to look at, Jeff, as well, is the ZWO cameras, the equivalent.
Yeah.
And I've owned both the some QHY cameras. I had the QHY8 and the QHY10, and I've used them for many years. And I switched over recently last year to 2. I've got a ZW224MC and the 2600, and that's incredible, the difference. It's they're really good cameras.
Well, I mean, got
both the QHYs are good as well.
Yeah, I had a QHY for guide camera, but the USB port failed on it. But I never really looked into the ZWO cameras, but I do have the ASI 120mm for a guide camera.
Yeah.
I've got a 224 MC ASI, and I actually haven't used it for anything but guiding, unfortunately, but it looks like a nice.
I use it for planetary. That's a 224 MC Pro. It's one of the ones I use for planetary, and it does an incredible job. And the 2600 Pro that I got for my Hyperstar is just phenomenal. It just blows my mind every time I use it.
Yeah, I'm in need of a new camera because this one is starting to show its age, right? So,
yeah,
you know, I'd look at the ZWOs, but there's not very many dealers in Canada.
No, I ended up buying mine from Ontario Telescope, and it actually took 3.5 months to get here, something like that.
Yeah, see, that's what I don't want. I don't want to wait that long.
Yeah.
Well, what I've got up here now, while we've been talking, I just set the black point on that single frame that you saw. So there is a single 10-minute frame off the DSLR. It does a reasonable job.
It does, certainly does.
Yeah.
There's no.
Anyhow, guys, I have to jet. Good job, Blair and Jeff.
Well, we'll let it run here for a bit. Like I said, from this point on, it gets a little boring because we're just waiting for images to roll in. But it will give people an idea of what it's like to go imaging. And what I'll do, no, I won't be able to do that tonight. I was going to say we could actually do the whole alignment of the mount tonight, but I better not, because I'll screw it up, no doubt, once it gets later, and then it'll screw up my images for the rest of the night. So we're
going to go for tonight. Thank you very much, guys. That was great.
Thanks.
No
Thanks.
Before he leaves, though, I just sitting here chuckling to myself because most times I hear people talk about apertures and telescopes, and this is sort of another aspect of aperture fever, but not really aperture.
Well, the neat part about imaging is you tend to substitute exposure time for aperture. So rather than having to use a 30-inch telescope, I can do the same thing with a 5-inch telescope and just expose it for 10 minutes. Well, I mean, you get the idea. Can you imagine the size of the telescope you would have to look through to see that image that's up there now?
Yeah, it would
It's called the Hubble.
It would fit in the backyard, I'm sure. Yeah.
What's that?
It would fit in the backyard, I think. Yeah.
I think it should be a useful birthday present, Jerry.
That's come and gone, unfortunately. Yeah. All right. Good night, guys. Thanks.
Good night.
Yeah, we'll see you later.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
no problem.
Thanks, Blair.
Still there, Glenn?
Yeah, I'm just hanging in for a second. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, you are definitely going to have to stack those or to process those images. They turned out reasonably well, I think.
Yeah, I was quite pleased with them actually. They look good.
Yeah.
I'll have a go at them.
Yeah, like I said, that was just a quick pass I made at them earlier today.
Yeah. M31, it does need some more data, but I'll wait for the next clear night and take a long run at it.
One shot needs several hours.
Yeah,
How
sure.
long are the subs on the M31 shot and your M27 shot?
Oh, sorry, say again?
How long were each of the subs on those?
30 on M27, 30 seconds. And, oh no, sorry, 90 seconds on M27 and 30 seconds on M31.
Where was the histogram when you did those?
On M27, it was a little closer to the center than I liked, but I just let it go. On M31, it was where it should be, like about a quarter of the way up. So,
it's fine to let it get to the center as long as it's not saturating. Basically, the rule of thumb is to be somewhere between an 1/8 and a 1/4. You don't want to be to the left side of that, but going to the right is not a big problem.
okay.
The only thing that will happen is eventually you will saturate some of the stars. But if you don't mind saturating the stars, you can expose it a little further to the right. So thus the 90 seconds is probably just fine.
Yeah.
Was there a moon up that night?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it was low on the horizon, but it was still starting to catch. That may be I'm not sure where that reddish glow came from. It could have been just reflecting off the side of the house, or it could have been ambient light from the moon.
Yeah, if you put a dew shield on, most of that'll go away.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's getting a little. I think I was shooting from the deck, so it's possible that it may have been an upstairs light in the window or something that was catching. But yeah, I'll get a dew shield for it.
Yeah, you can just make one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to taking another run at M31.
Yeah, no, those two images turned out pretty good. The Dumbbell Nebula shot, I think if you play around with it a bit, will turn out quite nice.
Yeah.
I'm just making a first.
I got a fair amount of data for that one, but
yeah, I'm just making a first pass at noise reducing my image here now, and we'll see what it looks like.
Okay.
This is again just a single frame. It didn't turn out too bad.
Yeah. I see a lot of the red hydrogen. That's hydrogen alpha emission.
Yeah.
It's good. The image that I had didn't show. I don't know if I can bring that out or not with the camera and with the data that I've got, but.
The way you have to bring that out with your camera, since your camera is not as sensitive to HA as mine is,
yeah.
Is you look at it, you get the, what am I trying to say? You take the blue channel and you subtract it from the red channel.
Okay.
That leaves only the spots where your image is very red. And then you make a mask out of that, and you simply boost the red using the mask. So you have to artificially boost the red with your camera.
Yeah.
I'll show you when I get back into town.
All right.
But what I would do if I were you is I would just process it and don't worry about bringing the red out. We'll bring that out a little later.
Okay. I'm just curious about the noise and see if I can clean it up a little bit more.
And but I mean, this shot with the red coming out is a function of the filter, I think, to a large extent. if I go 1 second now, where is it? Oh, I better not do that. I was going to attempt to show a shot that I took a year or so ago out here at the cottage, but unfortunately I have to download it off my website, and I'm struggling with bandwidth here. I keep getting notices, so rather than have my computer crap out in the middle of this, I'll pull it up later. But yeah, I think your shots will turn out pretty good. They definitely need a little processing, but that's perfect.
Yeah, I just got to find a little time.
Let your daughter do some painting for a bit. Is she in the room? Am I in trouble now?
She's downstairs video gaming, so I note upstairs here.
But you know, that'll definitely give people an idea of sort of, you know, what an evening imaging is like. You know, my setup is reasonably stable, so once I get it up and running, it becomes pretty boring. That's sort of why I like to go to St. Croix, because about this time I go look through Mark's telescope.
Yeah.
But it's you know, once you get most of the bugs worked out, it's reasonably straightforward. Bob, I know you mentioned that you were your guiding graph looked pretty bad, but if your guiding graph looked like Jeff's did, that's not that bad.
I was away for a while and taking some shots up and doing some imaging on Northumberland Strait. We had about 4 or 5 really nice nights, but I kept losing my guiding and I couldn't figure out why. And after the 3rd night, I realized that it corresponded to every time I moved in the chair. I was sitting next to the setup and was on a deck.
Oh,
and so every time I moved, the thing just went nuts. I dropped everything and I was getting pretty excited about it, to be honest. But afterwards, I realized that if I just sit still, everything worked really well.
Glenn and I have had this discussion. Glenn has his telescope set up on a deck for some of the imaging he's done. And basically, my advice to anybody is do not attempt to image from your deck.
Yeah, it's just not sturdy enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a concrete balcony here, which is hardly, I mean, hurricanes come by and it doesn't move. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what a concrete balcony would do.
Actually, the guiding is fine now. What surprised me was the guiding when I was on the deck, because I'd not done it before.
I found a little secret is once you've started your alignment process, you do your final alignment with a remotely. You stay inside the house and don't go near the deck, and when it's running,
right.
You don't step outside.
That's right. Don't breathe.
Don't breathe. No, don't even walk across the floor too hard.
No, I noticed that too. But doing that remotely is a lot more comfortable when you start to get all the gear up and working. I'm not quite there yet, so
yeah,
I just sacrificed my first 2 or 3 images to the fact that I got to move.
Yeah. No, it's a nuisance. I got too many trees. That's the problem.
It's funny. It has taken me a few years to get my gear to the point where I can just let it go and do its thing and, you know, get the images I want off it. This next frame coming up should be interesting. A cloud moved right through the frame. You can actually see, if you look at the plot down here, the red trace is the number of stars found in the image. The blue trace is the half-width, the half-flux radius. And it'll be interesting to see what happens to that half-flux radius in a couple of seconds when this downloads. I'm getting beeps here because there's a cloud, really high cloud.
That's PhD losing a star.
That is correct. And I'm looking up trying to see where the cloud is, and it's really faint cloud. I see it by eye. I might be able to suggest the edge of it. There's a cloud that through. We'll see what it looks like in a minute. See how badly it screws the image up. We should be 30 seconds away from seeing just what damage it did to the image. It's surprising when you have high cloud like this, you can still image through it.
Yep, you can.
Blocks the image for a little bit of time. So we'll see here in just a couple of seconds, in about 10 seconds. PhD is going nuts here.
It stopped guiding anyway.
It stopped guiding, and I'm hoping I didn't get a lot of star drift. We'll soon see.
Shouldn't.
Let's see what happens when it downloads. Not too bad.
No, actually, that looks pretty good, Blair.
So I'm going to zoom out here a minute so we see the full frame. I'm going to try and zoom out. There we go.
There we go.
That's not too bad.
There's a couple of blotches, but
no, it looks pretty good. The problem blotches you're seeing because that's a bared image. It hasn't been debared.
Okay.
So dither is complete now. It's picked up the guide star, and it's exposing the everything. And it's using the guide star.
Try cutting the down to 2 seconds.
There's a little tiny bit of cloud overhead, and
okay.
So it's just killing it.
Because your image is quite blurred. I find that if I cut back on the exposures, that tends to neutralize.
Well, my exposure is only 1 second. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, but I mean, go to 2.
Oh, make it longer.
Yeah,
I
go
could.
to 2.
Yeah, I could, but there's a reason I'm using 1.
Okay.
The mount has a belt drive, and the belt, every time the belt tooth goes over the gear that drives it, you get a little wobble in RA.
Yeah.
And it has a fast rise, so by using 1 second guide pulses, it takes all that out.
Okay, that's obviously experience with your mount.
Yeah, so I tend to guide at 1 second. In the summer, I can go 2 or 3 seconds without any great grief, but I tend to leave it at 1 second. You can see it right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I can see the bump. Yep.
Yeah. And I didn't train PEC tonight. I probably should have, but the guiding isn't bad. I mean, you can see this is quite tight here without a great problem. Yeah, the cloud seems to have moved off there now. I still can't. Yeah, there's a reasonably big hole, hopefully a 10-minute wide hole, and we'll get the next exposure without any great grief. How many have we got so far? We have pull up the sequence. So we have 4 10-minute exposures so far. So it's doing pretty well. The images are reasonable. Stars are nice and round, which is good. Take a zoom in here. So this is the shot even after guiding failed, so you can see there's still reasonably round stars. I think that'll work out. And I think Jeff dropped out on us. Let's see here. I was kind of curious how his shot is going to turn out, but no, it looks like Jeff has dropped out. But so far, so good. And Bob, I did get your email about the Images Plus sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was you. But I am planning on doing some more. But I'm at the cottage now, so I figured I'd wait till I get home. And
you deserve a break.
well, we did one on stretching. We've done one on noise reduction. The next one will obviously be sharpening. And then into some of the more esoteric things in processing with Images Plus. Sort of the idea behind the package to process images in sections, or in sections isn't the right word, to process parts of the image. So for instance, when you're doing noise reduction, you take the stars out of the image, reduce the noise of everything else, and put the stars back in. When you do that, it prevents the stars from blurring. Whereas if you noise reduce with the stars in the image, your stars will get slightly blurred. And then you have to try and recover them with sharpening. So there's a bunch of things like that that we'll take a look at. We'll take a look at multi-scale decomposition type processing, where you can actually process images based on the scale of things. So I can process just the stars. I can process something that's 3 times as big as the stars, that sort of thing. You know, so if I was looking at this, I could process detail that's in the size of that star or the size of this big blob. So I could make any blobs like that stand out. There's all sorts of techniques for doing that. I think, if I remember right, PixInsight has a similar capability. I forget what they call it now. It escapes me at the moment, but it's again a multi-scale type processing option that's quite useful.
So that's likely to come up sometime in September then?
Yeah, I'll do that when I get home. Bear with me for drinking some coffee. When I get home, I'm going to start putting it together. I think we might finally use another image rather than the one I'm using, or rather than the one I have been using. Although it might work. I'll have to see. The image I'm taking tonight might be really good for the multi-scale decomposition section, because it's got lots of detail at various image scales. So you've got the stars, which are really fine. You've got, you know, the blobs in the image that you can sharpen up. You know, all of this detail in here. Just to give you an idea, if we take this image as it is and crop it. Come on. That's interesting. That crop. Okay. So if we take that image and I run multi-scale decomposition here, hopefully I won't bring the noise up too much, but let's have a look. This will take a bit. It's going to run now, and what it's going to do is it's going to break out all those detail layers, and then it will add all the detail layers together and leave the sort of blurry background behind. And then I can add that to the image you see in front of you, and it'll really emphasize some of the detail in the nebula. The one problem with doing that on this single frame is it will also bring the noise up substantially. You really have to have a good quiet image, which a single 10-minute frame is not. You know, by the time I get 20 of these 10-minute frames, I'll have an image that's quiet enough to do this with. But it'll give you an idea. For the others that are still there listening, if you're interested in using Images Plus, it's now a free download. Mike Unsold, the author of the package, has decided to move on from writing image processing software, and he's made Images Plus free for anyone who wants to download it. You can get to it on his website, www.mlunsold.com, and it's well worth that kind of price. When I bought it, it was several $100s, but it's now free. And
yeah, I downloaded it when you announced it there a few months ago.
Yeah, so did I.
It's I like it because it's closer to the way Photoshop works, in that you've got layers and blend modes and masks and all that sort of stuff. I also tend to find it much easier to do simple things with, like a stretch, than PixInsight. Just depends on what you grew up using, I guess. Oh man, this is slow compared to my big laptop. The tablet I'm using here, sorry, is a single core i5. Not a bad tablet. I mean, it's reasonably quick. Certainly drives my telescope with no problem, and I can do some image processing. But this would be all over with if I had used my i7 laptop that's in the cottage. I've asked it to do 30 layers of detail, so 30 different sizes of detail, and it's on layer 8. The laptop would have done all 30 by now. Let's see how our image is doing here. We've got another 34 seconds before the next one downloads. And the guiding is looking pretty good. We're at 0.76 arc seconds for guiding. And we'll see what it looks like here in 15 seconds, plus 10 seconds to download. So the image you see in front of you is the one that had the cloud interfering with it. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like compared to the next one.
Yeah.
So it's downloading now. Not a whole lot of difference.
Yeah,
a little bit.
We were lucky.
It's just a little sharper, as you can see. But
So the cloud didn't do much damage.
no, that's what I said is what happens in a lot of cases is although you get cloud there, it's only in front of the telescope for a short period of time, so it really doesn't do a whole lot of damage. You know, if it's there for a good chunk of the 10-minute exposure, if it had been there for a minute even, you'd begin to see it. But it was only there for a few seconds.
Blair, I'm looking at the center of the bright spots on the image, and I think I'm seeing a grid pattern.
You are. It's a bare image.
Okay, it is the bare image. All right.
It's not debared. Yeah, you definitely
Gotcha.
should. All right, matter of fact, if I zoom in enough.
I saw it earlier, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, now it's very clear.
Oh, you can see it. Yeah, the image has not been debared in this package. It's the one thing I don't like about Sequence Generator Pro. If you have a color camera, it does not debar the image for display.
Okay.
It's kind of dumb. They really should have done it, but what the heck? Everything else works exceedingly well, so I'll give them a pass on that one. Oh, I think we're losing our
PhD.
Yeah, you can see right there.
Yep.
The cloud caused some problems. Seems to have come back.
It's back again.
Yeah. I still don't see any. There's a thin finger of cloud that might have just caught it. Nice and clear to the south of me. Just turning around here to have a look. Yeah, very clear to the south. Jupiter and Saturn are both up nice and bright. And just in the north and the west, there's really high thin cloud and it's just moving through, and occasionally it gets the area where I'm imaging. So all in all, so far, not a bad night.
Yeah. Well, that was number 5, was it?
That was number 5, yes. It is now shooting. I can never figure out this display. I think it shot 5 out of 30. You pull up the whole sequence, it's easier to see on that. What I can't tell from that is, has it shot 5 or is it shooting the 5th one? No, it's shooting 5.
So how do you like Sequence Generator Pro there, Blair?
I do like the software. I also like it has its good points and its bad points. It takes a little bit to figure out, as does any package that does the kind of things that it does. But once you figure it out, it's reasonably easy to use. The biggest complaint I have is it does not display the color image from a color camera. That's really my biggest complaint. The other thing that I don't like is that it won't save a JPEG preview image. So for instance, over here in the frame and focus tab, right over here, sort of the middle of the right edge, you can select JPEG previews if your camera will download a JPEG. But even if you select it, you'll see it in color on the screen. It won't save it as a JPEG. It'll save it as a FITS file. It's kind of convenient to be able to save it as a JPEG for sort of previews. Backyard EOS has that ability to save a JPEG file, and it's quite useful because a lot of other image display packages will open it. For instance, I can't just go to the file directory using the Windows File Explorer, double click it, and have the image open up. I have to go to, because it's a FITS file, I have to go to Images Plus and open it there. Not that that's a problem, it's just less convenient more than anything. But that's my biggest gripe about it. I love its autofocus routines. It's got good focus control. It's got telescope control built in. It'll do mosaics. I happen to like my own program, Mosaic Engine, better for mosaics and telescope control. But it does a good job. No complaints. The system works. But it relies a little bit on plate solving, which is a bit of a cheat. You really don't need to plate solve to shoot mosaics. But no, it's all in all a good package.
Yeah, no, the reason why I'm asking, because I'm thinking about getting the ZWO, the 294 MC Pro. So I was trying to determine what to use, because right now I'm using Backyard EOS because I have DSLR, but I was determining whether to use Sequence Generator Pro or Astronomy Tool.
I would definitely recommend Sequence Generator Pro. I have no complaints with it at all. If the camera you're getting rather has an ASCOM driver, then you're guaranteed it will work. If it doesn't have an ASCOM driver, there are drivers built in for a variety of cameras. Let's see. So it's got drivers for, I can't show you what it's got drivers for while I'm shooting an image. Shoot. The settings dialog is grayed out. But it's got a limited number of drivers for cameras. It'll drive QHYs, SBIGs. I think it'll drive a zoo, and then any ASCOM compliant camera. So most of the cameras these days, unfortunately, they don't do it for DSLRs, and I really wish they would, is have a ASCOM driver.
Yeah, it should have it.
Yeah, and if your camera has an ASCOM driver, then it will pop right into Sequence Generator Pro with no problem. It's one of the better camera control packages I've come across. Maxim DL is in his camera control package as well. Doug George is at Ottawa Center member. I forget what center Doug is a member of. No, Sequence Generator Pro seems to work quite well. And of course, the camera will come with its own camera control software as well. So you can always just use what comes with the camera and play around with that. It is definitely worth downloading Sequence Generator Pro once you get that camera and play around with it. They have a time-limited demo of the software that you can download, if I remember correct. The software is not overly expensive. It's about $100 Canadian. Sorry, American. I bought it specifically to drive my focuser. I was using backyard EOS, and I do like backyard EOS. The one thing that I don't like about backyard EOS, aside from the fact that it doesn't have autofocus as of yet, let me pull up the sequencer here. If you look at the sequencer, you'll notice that this is very similar down here to backyard EOS. So you've got they call them events, but effectively you've got a number of frames just like you do in backyard EOS, in the sequence in backyard EOS. So you can take light frames, dark frames, whatever you want down here. The one thing that backyard EOS does not allow is having different names for each of those. Here I can put in a suffix. I can type in a different suffix for each one of those. And I can actually build up a sequence that is multiple images. So I could shoot 2 hours on M27 and then add in a different object up here and have a completely separate sequence for that object. And it would shoot M27, then it would move the scope to the new object, let's say M31, and then it would shoot several hours on that and move to the next target. So it's quite useful that way. I tend to use Mosaic Engine to do that kind of scope control. And
So it would automatically go and do a plate solve and then.
Yeah, no, I don't bother doing plate solves. CPWI is accurate enough that the target is plopped right in the middle. Give you an idea. Here is. Oops. Get down there. So you can see that it's plopped the nebula here right smack dab in the middle of the frame. And if that's been dithered, so if I sort of center up, there, that looks about the center of the frame. You can see it's pretty darn close to the center, and that's with no plate salt. That was an all sky go-to. I was pointing at Arcturus, which is in completely the opposite side of the sky, and I told it to move over to M27, and this is the result. It plopped it right in the middle. And it's now going to do an autofocus run. So the reason it's doing that autofocus run is it has been an hour since our last image. Is it? Last time I focused was 9:46. It is now 10:49, so it's been an hour. So every hour I've got this set to do an autofocus.
So will that wait then after your image is complete, or will it start it right in the middle of a, like a 10-minute sub that you're doing?
No, it waited till the sub was finished.
Yeah, I won't say, because that would mess up your.
Oh yeah, that would piss you off royally.
Yeah. So it takes that into an account then. It knows not okay.
Yeah, it won't do anything in the middle of an exposure. It won't even do a temperature compensated. It's got temperature compensation built into the focuser as well. So what it does is, as the temperature drops, it will slightly move the focuser to make up for it, which is a godsend in winter. But it does not do it during an exposure. It does it in between the exposures.
Okay.
So you can see now it's plotting the V curve again. So it's taken 2 shots so far, and you can see that the half flux radius is going down. And unfortunately, it takes a good 120 seconds, a couple of minutes to do an autofocus, but not a big problem.
Blair, I've been using Sky Portal with my AVX, and you're using CPWI. Is CPWI a better product for basically getting you in the center of where you want to be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The advantage of CPWI is it completely models the map. You can add over 100 stars to the model.
100?
You can add well over 100.
Yeah, you can put 10 in for the.
Yeah, no, you can put in hundreds with CPWI. Now, you would never do that on a portable telescope. You might do that, build a model with 100 stars in an observatory. But in a portable telescope, the model I'm running here, and I've used it since I got to the cottage, you can save the model. And if you don't move the telescope, you can just recall it, sync on one star, and you're done. But the model I'm using has 4 stars.
Okay.
And you saw what the target was. It was smack dab in the middle.
Sky Portal will let you go with 4 stars as well. In fact, it sometimes stops at 3. It just says it's half.
Yeah, no, CPWI wants at least 4, but you can put in up to 100.
Okay.
Now, the interface in CPWI sucks, to be quite blunt about it.
There's a lot of noise on the screen for sure.
Yeah, their planetarium software, their display is really bad, to be quite blunt about it.
Yeah.
You can turn various things on and off. It's just the way you move around the screen. There's no pinch zoom, and you have to drag the screen, and the screen doesn't quite drag the way you would think, depending upon how you zoom.
Right.
Like you notice it changed directions in which it was moving there. Yes. I'm moving my finger on my tablet in the same direction. So it's got its quirks. I use it to set up a telescope, and then I use the ASCOM driver from CPWI, and I use either ECU or my own software to control things from that point.
Okay.
But you won't get a better package, especially since it's free, for Celestron mounts to control them than CPWI. It works very well.
Well, Celestron's been pushing the Sky Portal for the wireless connection, and it's okay, but it drops from time to time in the middle of
all those wireless connections do. I refuse to use them for imaging because you're partway through imaging and all it's got to do is drop it, and then your 10-minute subframe is lost. So I don't tend to use them. That's part of the reason I've got a computer at the telescope, my tablet. If I'm in the cottage and I'm remote desktoping in, the nice part about it is if the remote desktop connection fails, everything's still going. It's run from my tablet. So all I have to do is restart the remote desktop and everything is back to where it was. So it's one of the nice things about having the computer that's running your telescope local to the telescope.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that makes eminent sense. Yeah. I've noticed when mine does drop, if I'm fortunate enough to get a reconnect without any other issues, it will do very much the same thing. But probably 7 or 8 times out of 10, it wants to do a realignment in the middle. And as soon as you start that, you've lost everything that you're collecting.
Yeah, no, I simply don't want to use a wireless connection to control things. I want to have a local computer that's controlling it, and then have a wireless connection to that local computer.
Yeah, that makes quite a bit of sense. You've built your own. There doesn't seem to be anything out, unless CPWI provides that support.
Sorry, say that again?
No, I said you built your own connection, I gather, using your laptop, using your tablet.
Yeah, basically the tablet's logged on the cottage network. And, I would log on the cottage network with my laptop in the cottage, and then I can just remote desktop in.
Yeah. Well, I tried that option with Sky Portal, and it screwed up my home network completely, so I took it off. It wouldn't. I lost everything at home, everything.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a competition. Once Sky Portal gets in there, or the Celestron connection, It wants to run on your network, or it wants to run directly to your controller. And if it wants to run on your network and you say yes, it basically grabs your network. You don't have control of your network anymore. Everything in the house dropped, but the connection to the scope was good.
Grief. Yeah, I would definitely not use that.
I only used it once.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, no, I would definitely look into picking up a cheap Windows tablet.
Yeah.
You don't need a high-end tablet to run a telescope. You basically need something with a decent Wi-Fi connection, and away you go.
Yeah, I bought a refurbished PC at Best Buy for 150, 175 bucks.
Yeah.
For mine.
Fabian, that's what you're running your scope with?
Yeah, with the computer, with the laptop outside.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just connect with TeamViewer on the inside.
Yeah, it's definitely the way to go. The reason I say Windows tablet, not to pick on Mac fans, but there's just not a lot of Mac software out there for doing this sort of stuff.
No.
ASCOM works really well, but it only runs on a PC.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Now that since we've been talking, this multi-scale decomposition run has finished. And if you take a look, if I open up those two levels. So here we have two levels. Here is all of the detail. Here is the sort of general brightness, the blurry stuff. We don't want the blurry part of that image, so that's called the residual image. Basically, it's if you take this image right here and you subtract the detail image from it, what's left is that blurry image that you saw. But we're going to do the opposite. We're going to sort of effectively add these two together. So if I do combine layers, oops. And I do this with a mask, but I didn't bother making a mask here just to show how the thing works. I probably would. Why is it doing that? I've got something not quite doing what I wanted there. They're in the right order, I believe. Yep. And then if we say apply, I don't know why it keeps coming up with that cancel. That's interesting.
Have a negative value set somewhere.
No, I'm not sure why it's doing that. It never did before. I suspect there's something pressing on my screen somewhere. It's a touch screen, so one sec. Let me just try something here. I close that down and open it up again. See if the problem will go away. Open the image. Yeah, where is said image? Okay, so here is the image. Unfortunate. No, whatever the problem is still there. I don't want to reboot my computer to get rid of it, so
No.
Let's see if I can't get it to do its thing here. I suspect it's something to do with Zoom interfering. It tends to do that with some of my software. So we'll restretch this image quickly here. I'll get rid of the checkerboard pattern. Bear with me. This is interesting. If you take a look here, you can see the guiding went a little crazy. I'm likely to have some trailed stars in this one. I don't quite know what happened there. So now we'll take the green out of this image. Wait till it finishes. There. We sort of zoom in here. And then we will, I'll leave it at that for now. Let's see if I can do this combined. Yeah, it looks like zoom is interfering somehow. See what happens. Consolidated detail. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let me do it. I wanted to combine these two images to sharpen things.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it looks like zoom is interfering with my touch screen. Let's just see what happens here. No, it's not going to let me. Zoom strikes again. Somehow it's causing some interference and not letting me combine those two images. What I wanted to show was all of the detail in this image can be used to enhance this image and sharpen that all up. See if I can zoom in on the detail in this image. That.
There is more detail for sure.
Yeah, there is a lot more detail, but you'll also notice the image is a lot darker.
Darker, yep.
That's because the overall brightness has been removed. But what it'll do is it will emphasize, all this detail will end up in here. And you'll end up with an image that has saturated stars. Or not saturated, yeah, saturated stars, all the color will disappear. So generally you apply it with a mask so that you mask out the stars. And when you do that, you'll get a very nice enhancement of the nebula relative to the background. And a lot of the real faint structures over here will actually pop out. There's one technique that we can try here. I don't know if it'll work. Let's see. Depends on how much of that stuff zoom is interfering with. First thing we want to do, we want to drop the black point down somewhat substantially. Okay, so here's our image. We're going to make a mask out of that image. Just a luminance mask, which is nothing but the black and white version of the image. Then we're going to make a negative of that. And I'm going to try and darken up the dark stuff. So we'll go to curves. And then we'll brighten up the background a bit. Okay, save that. And we'll just pick the default name. Let's see how that image that is downloading here is going to work. Might have a little star trailing on this one.
In one shot. Yeah.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like it.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think your guiding is, it's picking up very quickly without having a lot of repercussions. So you're probably
yeah. So now we'll get rid of the mask. And what we're going to do, we're going to stretch this image but we're going to apply that mask to it. First thing we'll do is just a really gross stretch, the histogram contrast stretch here. It'll bring all the noise way up. The image is quite noisy. And then we'll apply the mask to it. So I'm just going to shrink this down by a factor of 2. What I want to see is, can I bring out any of the faint outer wings on the nebula? And the answer is yes, because I can see them on my screen here now. And then, whoops,
Yeah.
that mask. Hardware here, load. Now I got to find the mask. There it is. I think it's that one. We'll soon see. And it is. There we go. I don't know if you can see that faint band right there.
Yes.
That is one of the faint outer wings of the nebula. That's actually what I'm trying to get tonight. There's another one over here. You can just start to make it out
You
there.
can see it on the other side.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm attempting to bring out with a nice long exposure tonight, is to get that faint envelope that's around the nebula.
Right.
Looks like we got it. Let's just take some of the noise down a bit. Normally I would split this image and get the stars out of the way and bring the noise down quite quickly. But for purposes of what we're doing here tonight, since this is just a single frame, I haven't stacked this at all. There we go. Yeah, you can definitely see it right there and right there. So I think we'll get what I'm hoping to be able to pull out of this by the time the night is through.
Good.
Shot are we on now? We are on frame 8. So going for 80 minutes in this exposure so far. And I'll let it run for a couple hours. That's not too bad. At any rate, that'll give folks an idea of what it's like to image with a reasonably well-developed system. I've been a few years putting all the pieces together, and it seems to be working quite well for me now. Finally, it has taken a few years to get all the right bits and pieces. Software-wise, some of the best pieces of software that I've had would be starting with Backyard EOS is excellent for camera control for those folks that have Canon or Nikon DSLRs. Sequence Generator Pro works really well. CPWI for Celestron mounts. I don't know if there's an equivalent package for other mounts, but it does work well for Celestron mounts. And PhD as a non-guiding package does a real good job. Looks like we've lost
You gotta enable that mute button on the old PhD.
What's that?
So you have to enable that mute button on the PhD.
Exactly.
You can actually turn it down.
Yeah, you can. There is a mute.
I'm looking up at the sky to see if I can see the cloud that just went through there, and I can't see it. The Milky Way is standing out quite nicely in that area. I just simply don't see the cloud that seems to be interfering with the image or with the guide.
Your guiding image is back strong again. So whatever it was almost, it was pretty fast going over.
Yeah, you can see it was in this area right here where the star dropped out. But we'll have to wait and see how that one looks. But so far, so good. You get the idea. It seems to be doing its thing. And that's about it, guys, unless anyone has got any specific questions.
The last piece of software that you mentioned got lost on me because of PhD.
I think it was Sequence Generator Pro, PhD,
CPWI.
yeah, and CPWI. Those are the main pieces of software.
Okay. So PhD2 was the other one. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, there's been, you know, I tend to use Mosaic Engine, my own software, for actual telescope control, mostly because I wrote it, and when it doesn't do something I want it to do, I can make it do it. I don't have to wait for someone else to update the software, but you know, there's lots of good software out there for that sort of thing. But in your case, I would definitely get rid of Sky Portal and use a direct connection.
Okay. Well, I noticed that there was a different kind of response when I used the handset.
Yeah.
And it just responded a whole lot better.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't used it to guide, or not to guide, but to go to. I was just using it to move the scope.
Yeah. No, it's something I would definitely get rid of. It's just one of those things with the mess that you run into, you know, with when you have too many things that can go wrong, one of them will.
Yes, and I've proven that to myself night after night.
Even if it can't go wrong, it will. Especially at 3 in the morning when you're too tired to realize you did something wrong.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's when you look for a different kind of experience, like watching the moon, because it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we've got a really good night of seeing here. I must admit, it's still 0.8 arc seconds. You're
in good shape. I haven't looked out the window since we started this, but just before I looked out and there was nothing. It was totally clouded over here.
Yeah, no, so far
I'm just opposite
the
the bridge.
Night, and I'm looking around the sky, and there are a few clouds, and they occasionally move in front of what I'm shooting. But other than that, so far so good.
Good. Well, enjoy. Thank you very much for yet one more time dumping more information in than the brain will carry, but it's been good. And this is being recorded too, so.
I believe it is.
Yeah, it's showing as being recorded, so I'm going to assume I can go back and replay the sections that I really want to see again.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I'm not sure about is how I save the recording.
At the end of this, are you the host for this session?
I am. Yes.
Okay. At the end of the session, don't shut everything off. You'll be told, do you want to let the recording finish, and it will then copy the recording. Normally it copies it onto a Zoom site or a site that you've defined. So the chances are that if you're using the default stuff, it will go to the same place. So Jerry can probably pick it up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be it for the night, guys. I'm just going to let this run now and go in the cottage where it's warm and have a cup of coffee. And we will do this again some other night. Probably do one when the moon is up, when we can get Dave Chapman to give a running commentary. And,
crater by crater.
Yeah, crater by crater. What I'll do is I will set the scope up in the driveway. And one of the things we want to do with some of those is get some more folks from the public involved. In particular, what we're hoping to be able to do, and I have contact with them and left a message. Unfortunately, I did it just before I came down on vacation, so I'll probably get the answer when I get home. We want to do one for things like the IWK, for the kids that are sort of stuck in the hospital. We can't go in and do observing for them, but I suspect some of them will have laptops, and they may even be able to hook it up to a TV so the kids can get a good look at the moon, sort of thing, remotely. There's also a couple of seniors' homes we want to do similar things for. But that's sort of something coming up that we'll get a bunch of people together and give them a tour of the moon. Anyway,
that's really positive. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it'll go well. But we've got to get in touch with. Like I said, I suspect I will see the message when I get home, and they'll be saying, "Yep, great, let's do it." But until then, it's
Well, enjoy your time at the cottage, Blair.
Shall. Tonight is the first night I've been able to get some good images. The last
Feels good, doesn't it?
Well, my goal when I came down here was actually to shoot a mosaic of the Heart Nebula, but it wasn't up high enough. And where I set the telescope up, I lose about half an hour to a particular tree.
Okay.
And of course, once you start shooting a mosaic, you can't move anything. You can't take the camera off. You can't do any of that stuff. So I didn't want to move the telescope. I'm looking at a good 6 hours of imaging to get that mosaic done. And I think I'll try that in my driveway at home when I get back.
Well, yeah, the conditions may not be as good in the sky, but they'll be easier on you.
Yeah, exactly.
They will say, how important is that tree?
That's right.
Unfortunately, it's in our neighbor's yard.
Okay. I guess it's very important then.
But at any rate, okay, guys. Well,
have a great evening and enjoy the rest of the shoot.
Absolutely. You guys too. Good night.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
okay,
Blair.
Thanks, Blair.
Yep.
Good night.